Thank you very much. Afternoon, everyone. After last year's conference, we had feedback from many of you that although it's great hearing from our business owners, it would also be great to hear from top advisors about their views on our world. My job for this session was to pick 4 advisors that are on top of their game, do things the right way, don't overcomplicate things, and last but by no means least, do the best for their customers. This was a tough job, as I know many of you here today fit that bill, but we could only have 4 on stage due to health and safety, and we know how much you advisors love to talk when you get going. So, the plan is, I'm going to give you some background on each of the advisors. I'm going to get them on stage, and I'm going to ask them a number of questions based on feedback from many of you in this room today. Firstly, we have a British Mortgage Awards winner, Rob Brooks. Rob Brooks won Top Overall Broker in 2015 and is a consistently high performer. In fact, he's won 4 awards at the MAB conferences, including Top Overall Broker, Best GI Broker, and Best Protection Broker. He protects a huge amount of his customers with life, critical illness, income protection, and family protection. In fact, in his time with MAB, he has banked over $2 million in commission, having arranged 1,300 mortgages, with over 800 of those mortgages having protection. Second on our panel today, we have another award-winning advisor, winning the British Mortgage Awards for Best Protection, advised in 2015 again. Jo Murgatroyd has been in the industry for 18 years and been advising with MAB for 6. Over those 6 years, she has helped over 800 customers, moving house and remortgaging. And she's basically had general insurance cover for over 550 of those customers, with a quality of work always an exceptional standard throughout her time with MAB. Our third advisor is Yvette Simpson. Yvette's come from an estate agency background, became an administrator for Farrell Hayworth, working with another top broker, Dan Crouch. She came through as a trainee mortgage advisor in 2013, and in the 5 years has gone from strength to strength. She's wrote over 700 mortgages, with over 400 of her customers having protection in place. She has shown you don't have to be in this industry for many, many years to be an excellent advisor. In her short term as an advisor at MAB, she's banked over $1 million and won the Best Newcomer, again at the British Mortgage Awards in 2015. Last but not least, Chris Jackson. Chris has recently made the final 3 for this year's BMAs, so good luck for Chris. He has protected nearly 1,100 clients in his 7 years with MAB. With 22 years' experience, there's not a lot he doesn't know about protecting his customers. Selling protection over the phone, Chris has a very strict process that works brilliantly and also has a fantastic persistency rate. And not surprisingly, has already been on this stage collecting an award today. So, between the 4 of them, they've helped over 3,300 clients, and it's not just about quantity. All of them can boast that the business they write is a very high standard. Please give a warm, warm welcome to Rob, Jo, Yvette, and Chris. Are we feeling?
Ready for the bar.
I've swapped the water for vodka, so you're fine. You'll be fine. Okay, so let's get right on with this. I'm going to pick on you, Yvette. Okay? During my opening, I outlined incredible figures that you've all achieved. Let's get straight into this. Why do you think customers want to use you over other advisors? Why do they buy off you?
I think the main thing I found is when I started out, I didn't have years of experience like a lot of advisors in the town, so I had to find my way of winning the business ultimately. So I used my estate agency background to really try and nurture clients through the whole process of buying. So it wasn't just, here you go, there's a mortgage, go find a house, good luck. It was very much, I'll help you with the process, the negotiating. I was an estate agent, let me play them at their own game kind of thing. And I think they genuinely know that I will look after them and hold their hand. So I think that's probably why I win the business.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Jo?
I think you need to be friendly, approachable, knowledgeable, and that will take on the customer journey like you do, Yvette. That will lead you to trust them, manage their expectations, and just try to exceed their expectations all the time.
We've talked about trust a couple of times already today. It's been mentioned this morning. Rob, anything to add onto that?
I think that there's a lot of competition out there, clearly. And to gain that client trust, you have to be there to support them. So make it clear what you're going to do for them, how you're going to do it, when you're going to do it, and then be consistent in delivery of that. So regular contact to the client after you've seen them, making sure that you're keeping in touch with them, and then you get the result out of the back end.
Brilliant. Chris, a lot of people would say that you've got a tougher job because you do pretty much 99–100% of your business over the phone.
Yeah.
Why do people buy off you?
Stick to a process, which I think is even more important over the phone than face-to-face, because it's very easy for them to get distracted and not give you their attention. Don't rush the conversation, have a proper in-depth conversation, spend time looking at the needs, and you've got to offer excellent service, because otherwise you're just another mechanism for a quote.
You mentioned your knowledge earlier. How important is that from your point of view?
You've got to have good knowledge, I think, but also you've got to know when to use it. As they were saying on the presentations earlier, the customer's interested in the benefits to them. They don't want to know all the intricacies of the product. But if you have that knowledge, you can ask the right questions to link it to their benefits.
Rob, sales process has already been mentioned. Mm-hmm. We have seen an increase in not only remortgage business, but also access to the switch market, which previously was mostly lender-driven. How have you adapted your sales process to combine the options of remortgage and switching? And how have you approached fee charge and protection when advising on both?
I think really the key thing to look at it is not necessarily that it's any different, whether they're doing a remortgage or they're doing a switch. At the end of the day, there's still advice there about whether they're going to do that switch or do a remortgage, or what the outcome is for the client. So the process has to be the same. Often, whilst we will have had contact with the client, we won't have had in-depth contact with the client, so we won't necessarily know about the change in jobs or the change in salary or the change in credit commitments or the change in number of kids or whatever else.
Actually, on that note, I was going to mention it later on.
Thanks.
Rob has just found out his lovely wife is going to give birth to twins very shortly. So well done, Rob. Anyway, you were saying.
Yeah, so you still have to have the same conversation, but now this time making sure that you're taking into consideration the fact that they could stay put with the existing lender and therefore perhaps get a quicker, if not necessarily cheaper deal, which might be better for the client.
But you would explain to the customer that they've got both options.
Exactly. Yeah. You have to talk about both options, because otherwise how can you be giving full advice? And because there's still advice there, there's still a fee there. Because otherwise they could just go direct to the lender and do it without having had the privilege of my time. So we still charge a fee, but it's a lower one if they do a product switch. And protection is still a key part of that, so we still review that with every client. We have a lot of clients who've got protection in place from when we've seen them the first time around, which might still be the right solution, but we will look at any additions or tweaks or changes to that.
Joe, you do a hell of a lot of remortgages. Anything to add?
No, really, just treat them all the same. So do the remortgages, follow the same structure for the purchases as well as the remortgages and the product transfer, have the same conversations about all of them and follow the same structure.
Chris, again, lots of protection on that side of things. Even if they got protection in place, what does the process look like?
I think what everybody else has said is correct, but just to expand upon it, I think if they've already got some protection, sometimes that can make life a little easier, because they already have an understanding they've got a need. I think the other thing is, what we probably need to also remember is products have changed such a lot. And whilst you've got to be very cautious, there may be opportunities to look at areas like income protection, where previously you could only do full benefit, which might have been historically expensive, and you can look at now short-term options and other alternatives, fracture cover. So, as everybody else has said, really, you've got to treat it like every other discussion with a customer.
Sticking with protection, Joe, you're one of 4 that have arranged over 3,000 protection cases and over 1,500 GI policies. So tell me how important protection is to you and your customers. Please share your top tips for ensuring you keep control of the protection sale in your sales process.
I think it goes back to what we were saying before about trust. You've already gained the client's trust with the biggest purchase they're ever going to do in their life, so why would they not trust you to have that conversation about protection? So we'll just continue with the conversation with protection, GI, and take it all from there, because the impact of not having it far outweighs the impact of having it.
Rob, you're a firm believer of this quality of the product, not just about the price. Anything to add on that?
I think it's really important to get the protection sale done ASAP. We generally operate on the basis of a first appointment, a mortgage sign-up, and then a separate protection sign-up. But I'm very clear that protection sign-up should happen within no more than 10 days, ideally 7 days of the mortgage sign-up, because otherwise the client will just drift. And so if you get into the boundary of that 28-day process, which Andy's put in, which is brilliant, you're probably getting too late to get as much cover in place for the client as you could.
But if you're doing it up front,
Yeah.
the 28-day process doesn't even come into it, does it?
No, but you just got to keep control of it.
Brilliant. Vet, extremely passionate about protection. Anything to add on that one?
There's two main things I focus on when I'm looking at protection sale. From the outset, I very much make it a package solution. So it's not that it's a mortgage and a protection. It's very much one combined solution for the client. I use the budget planner as a huge tool in this, because you make sure that from the outset you have the discussion, you mention it from your very first appointment, and incorporate it into your budget planner so they know it's affordable, so you know that they're roughly what you've got to play with protection-wise to cater it to them. But personally, I'm really passionate about it, because having had probably not the best advice from a bank, not a broker, when I was 18 and bought my first house, since then I had a huge change in medical circumstances to the point where now I can't get kick at all, and I am totally neurotic about it. But for I want to know that I always make sure that I've done the right thing for the client, so if anything changes to them, they've always got something to fall back on and some peace of mind. And it's that personal responsibility that you're lumbering them with hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of debt potentially, and you want to know that if anything happens, you can help them through it, and it's not that they're on their own.
Chris, I mentioned about keeping control of the sale, especially protection. Again, tougher job over the phone. How do you make sure you do that?
I think the customer's attention span won't be as long over the phone. So I tend to do it in 2 stages. My situation's a bit different to everybody else in that I'm often following a mortgage advisor that's arranged the mortgage within our company. But I break it down to 2 stages. I have an initial conversation, talk to them about the needs, look at what cover they've got at the moment, plant a few seeds, go away and then do some research, but get them back in the diary within a couple of days and present.
Rob, I'm going to start with you on this question because it's about managing time, which is obviously going to be a big thing for you going forward.
Yeah.
You've all completed over £1 million worth of business. It's been mentioned. All 4 of your names were on the big screen earlier. So how do you best manage your time?
Work incredibly long hours now, yeah. I have a very, when I'm working in a branch particularly, I have a very strict diary in terms of every morning there is set time for admin, and if they book an appointment in that time, they're going to have to move it, because that client that I've already spoken to is equally as important, if perhaps some ways more so than the one that I'm about to speak to. So every day, every client is contacted consistently, weekly, they have that contact, and that slot is important for that. And then very clear on, sort of evening appointments and what I can or can't do. But I have to make sure that there is admin time in the diary, because the process is taking longer to do the post-sale stuff than it is to actually spend time with the client.
Brilliant, thank you. Joe, you've got an 8-year-old and a husband as a boss?
Yeah, but only at work.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough.
Not at home. Got to give him a bit somewhere, haven't you? No.
Work-life balance, how do you do it?
Yeah, very, very difficult. A lot like Rob, diary management is the key to putting when you can work, when you can't work, when you've got to take people places. Obviously then through when you're doing your appointments is your attention to detail. Getting the slightest thing wrong can cause a problem later down the line that makes you do even more work, which is unnecessary. And then obviously admin support. Our admin team is absolutely fantastic with the support there that they offer.
Chris, Peter talked this morning about competition in the market and potential impact on where we're going as an industry. What do you believe the impact on you will be for changes in technology and the increase in options for customers on how they receive advice?
Suppose a natural flow from robo-advice for mortgages may go down the path of protection. I think, again, we've got to offer excellent service. We've got to be flexible. So I suppose offering advice over the phone is part of that. It may even bring a few new players into the market that are not in it at the moment, if they can automate a lot of the functions. But I think also what we've got to do is use technology to help us keep in contact with the customer, so that we keep our name in front of them at key points, so that if they do look to move, have a baby or two, or whatever else happens, then we're the first port of call. I think long gone are the days where you can do a mortgage or a protection and then forget about them and wait for them to ring you.
Rob, anything to add on that?
I think that clients are expecting things more and more immediately from the nature of some of the other things that they can buy and do. Amazon Prime was mentioned earlier on. I don't see that necessarily we sit in a space where that kind of model of going purely robo, certainly not at the moment, works. I think that there has to be an element of advice in there. And I think that we have to get better as an industry at using technology to improve customer outcomes. It can't possibly be right that it takes longer to do a mortgage application now than it did when I started 13 years ago. And it can't possibly be right it takes longer to buy a house than it did 13 years ago. So root and branch, that needs to be looked at. But I think we need to keep pace with that technology as MAB are doing. Otherwise, we'll be left behind.
Referrals and recommendations. Yvette, this is one for you. As a key advisor, the numbers of referral advisors they vary tremendously on referrals and recommendations. How do you go about winning more referrals, and how important is this to your business levels? I know it's a big part of your business.
Important to me, because again, when I set out being a new advisor, I only got 2 days a week of branch-fed appointments, so I had to find my own business. I couldn't just sit and wait for it to arrive. So the main thing is asking the question. Ask for the business. If you know you've done a good job for someone, why would they not pass on your details to a friend? It means far more reviews nowadays to people. Very few people buy things without a review. So if you're getting a first-time recommendation, it's important to people. It's a life-changing move they're making. So I think asking for it's really important. We use the £50 referral friend scheme, which is really handy. It's an extra 50 quid for someone to do something to send them your way, and it's pretty much a nailed-on sign-up. If you get a recommendation, it's very, very rare that they're going to go elsewhere because they're going to trust you because they've got that from a friend or family member. But I think asking for the business, making sure you're doing the right job in the first place for all your clients, so you know that you will be at the forefront of the mind when people ask. Social media is a big influence as well. With your peer group, with customers you've seen. If you can get your name flying around on social media, it just breeds business.
Chris, big part of Brook FS,
Yep.
recommendations. How do you do it at your end?
On top of what Yvette said already, we have various touch points. So as well as the verbal asking for them, when we set up a policy, telling them when the payment's going to be and all that kind of stuff, we again remind them at that point. If we get a FIFO review from the client, then Liz will respond, reminding them again. When we make annual contact, we remind them. So we're just sort of really trying to just keep promoting it that way.
Every single time with every single customer?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Final question, all of you to answer this one. Did you have any advice given to you that really helped you be successful? And if you could pass that on to others, what one tip would you share today? I'll start with you, Rob.
It's two things, though. You've asked for one.
Do two then. We've got time just.
Processing, structure, and be consistent. That's the one. Have a process. Find that it works. Do it consistently. Tweak it when it's not working, and have that process that you do tweak it and look at it again. But then the main piece of advice, I think, was to talk to my clients every day, which was actually Monica, about 5 or 6 years ago at conference, said, speak to your clients every day. And lo and behold, speaking to your clients every day works.
Easy as that.
Easy as that.
Joe?
I've run out now. Basically, I think you need to know your process, follow the structure, and don't cut corners. Follow the same structure, the same process every single time.
Big things, I think, stay true to yourself. Don't flog a policy for a sale. Make sure you're doing the right thing. Keep your morals there all the time. And I think being self-critical is really important, because make sure you're reviewing what you're doing, making sure that your KPIs are where they should be, that you're doing the protection sale job, that you're doing the job properly and looking after the clients. And as long as you're always self-critical and you analyse at the end of each month what you've done, you'll always continue to improve.
Chris?
Most people, everybody said really, process and structure, really important, particularly over the phone. when I have an appointment, I have purpose to the appointment. So whilst the client might think it's a chat, there's got to be an end game. Because it's very easy to fall into the informal chat side over the telephone.
Well, that's it from us. I'm sure you agree it takes a lot for these four to come up on stage in front of all you lot. They're normal human beings, well, normalish. They don't complicate the process. They're just very dedicated and hard-working individuals. They should never forget and be proud of how many people they've helped move into their homes, but also protect them and their families once in place. They're a credit to their business and our industry, and I thank you all for your honesty and for your time in joining me today. Thank you for listening. As they leave the stage, can I have once a massive round of applause, Rob, Joe, Yvette, and Chris.